Here it is Unpaved with Sean Salisbury, along with my guys Triple E and Coach JB. We got a lot to discuss today. We got Black Jack McDowell, 1993 Cy Young winner, three-time All-Star musician. Hell, I don't know if I'm more intrigued to talk about my guy. I saw Jack in Del Mar years ago hitting that guitar and singing. I loved it. And Black Jack's one of my favorite guys, and he'll be on. We'll talk the current state of baseball. I'm curious what he loves more. What was his biggest thrill? Was it first time on stage? Was it when he handed the Cy Young Award? When he got his first win in Major League Baseball? What is it? And Jack's a big time thinker as well. So I'm anxious to get Black Jack McDowell on. We'll talk to him today and about the current state of Major League Baseball. These rules, these gimmicks, Pete Rose, all of this, and where Black Jack fits in with that. And we'll talk to him a little later on. But first, let me bring in my guy JB. JB, welcome in. We're on show 4 here in the first week. And, man, let me just say this to our advertisers and sponsors. I can't thank you guys enough. We are brought to you. While the studios may not be the studio yet, it is the Premier Gold Studios. And wait till you see the studio we're going to have. A little throwback, little vintage, classic studio, not sterile. I can't wait till we get that done. But we'll have – I can't thank you enough. And to our viewers and these guys and gals who come on and listen to this, our first week has been phenomenal. So thank you very much. We don't take it for granted, and we sure as hell love coming on and doing this with transparency and passion, but also authentic. Okay, that's one thing, JB. You may not like it. There's sometimes that we may be full of shit, which both of us are, especially anybody who wears a visor backwards. My dog, you know how we do.
Is that 4 aces?
What's that? Damn right it is. That's for our guy Pat, man. This is just
got the phone. Just got the phone in.
Yep, that's our guy Pat. Well, we'll get him on, and boy, that will be a fun hour conversation when we get him on.
He's in Hong Kong right now. You don't want him right now. He's in Hong Kong. I know.
He's probably a little pissed off right now today, isn't he? We'll explain that later on. Well, we'll let Pat, but JB and I will be here. But we love it, and you're going to get authentic from us. But let's jump right in now. Here, I'm not going to mark them all down, but this is our first week, and we're grateful to be here. And to Craig Larson and Laura Palmisano, part of our team, and our guy Triple E. So grateful. JB, NFL, there is no offseason, as we mentioned. Let me jump right in. A couple things going on that are, I don't know if they're in my craw or if it's the right thing to do. Both out west, both different conferences, AFC, NFC. Let me start first with the Chargers in Los Angeles. Freed up $25+ million. Joey Bosa out. Still got some tread on the tire. Looks like he's aging a little bit, but much respect for a guy who's been to Pro Bowls and every year was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, but has missed a ton of football. And they decided to let him go, clear up some cap space. Right move, probably. A new venue can give you some excitement and thrill you a little bit more and maybe bring back some energy. But you got to be available, man. And as much as I like Joey Bosa, has not been available very much the last 3 years. So what kind of, aside from clearing salary cap space, what kind of game in your mind, watching tape, does Joey Bosa have left? And where's a fit for him right now? Or is it just a hope that he's better and can be on the field longer?
Yeah, I don't know. You know what came to mind? Staying out west. And after we talked about our guy, Max Crosby, you might bring up again later. How about Vegas? Bosa at this stage is probably like a wrong arm run game defender, basically a thicker bodied guy who's probably on the weak side now. You put Max on the strong side, make him be the pass rusher extraordinaire that he is, and go get the sacks, or vice versa. Put him on the weak side, go get the sacks. Put Bosa on the run stop side as the thicker body guy, and so he can. In Pete Carroll's defense, Sean, you know as well as I do, he'll make him fit the right way and keep him upright. The 49ers are mentioned to have the two brothers play together, but both of those guys have been injury prone a little bit. And I don't know if the return on investment for Frisco would make sense and possibly having both of your DNs get hurt. I don't think you can risk that with the Niners. So I like Vegas right now, and I think he still has some miles left on the tires. But it's got to be the right fit, and he can't be an every down. He can't be an every down guy anymore.
No, and it's a little specialization. And you know what else, JB, with this might be better for him where he's not the guy. He's the complement to the guy. When you meet a team like you mentioned, Max Crosby, going to a place that has a guy who's a disruptive pass rusher, but he may not be that same guy anymore, but still has enough tread on the tire to specialize and give you 50 snaps or 45 snaps a game and preserve it, because it's not the fact that he can't play, it's just his availability. And the money's going to be different now that he's been cut, and it was probably time. You got to be careful what you wish for. Everybody wants the big contract, and that's fine. But the second it stalls out a little bit, whether it's injuries or performance, guess who the first guy to go is? The clear salary space, 30-year-old type guy who has game left, but perception is doesn't play enough, and so we got to move on from him. I do think there's a spot for Joey Bosa, next to or across from as a bookend, like we said, a Parsons, a Myles Garrett, his brother. But the question is, with the 49ers cutting some, they're letting some guys roll now, as you know. I mean, obviously, there's a chance Dre Greenlaw's going to end up somewhere. Hufanga's going to end up somewhere. We've already seen the Deebo Samuel. I think if Deebo Samuel's healthy, that's an upgrade for him. And we mentioned earlier in the week, but in truth, they gave him away. I mean, you give me Deebo Samuel, if he plays 14 games over a fifth-round draft pick, I'm taking Deebo Samuel. So we're going to get more to the 49ers in a second. You know, the disruption.
Ayuk could be gone.
Brandon Ayuk, who was almost craving that trade last year, right? He was talking about that.
Yeah,
obviously, they were injury-riddled, that football team on both sides of the ball last year. I think some of the swagger's off in San Francisco right now, JB. I do. I think some of the swagger is off, meaning, you know, that every year we could count on them. Well, if they're not the first, they're not the third when it came to NFC favorite. I think there's some climbing to do. You got to get McCaffrey back on the field full time. You got to decide who's going to replace some of the defensive woes you had last year. You've made some coaching changes. You've also, you've lost coordinators every year. They do get Robert Saleh back in the mix, which will be good for them. But it also, the playmakers on offense, you got Kittle, and now you've lost Deebo. You're trying to fit into how healthy can McCaffrey be, how much more load can the guy carry, which leads me to Brock Purdy with that team as an NFC West team. I saw watching, I was doing my show and the television's on, JB, this morning, my local morning drive show in Houston, Sports Talk 790, just a shameless promo, is that Brock Purdy was offered, the talk is $45 million a year. And I saw that, and I know it's TV and it's teases and it's like trying to get you to stay tuned, but the conversation centered around, is it disrespectful to offer Brock Purdy $45 million a year? I take you back, 3 years now, JB, the last pick of the draft. I have a lot of respect for Brock Purdy's grind. He's physically limited, but boy, he's done some great things, which allowed you to get rid of Garoppolo, allowed you to get rid of, the kid who's in Dallas. Why am I losing my mind?
Trey Lance.
Yeah, Trey Lance, who has not panned out as a high first-round pick, and he's the guy. So my question for you, at $45 million, I don't know how you go from a guy making sub $1 million to raising it $44 million or so when he first came in as the last pick. What minimum salary? What for a small sign?
$900K. Wasn't he making $900K or something?
Yeah, $600, $700, $800,000. One thing, and he said, listen, he's had his team in a Super Bowl. He's had his team in an NFC Championship with help. Brock Purdy's not the guy who is going to load you on his back and carry you for a month on a football team. What Brock Purdy is, the guy, you put good players around him. You say, Sean, doesn't everybody need good players? Yeah, to win a Super Bowl, you do. That's the object. Draft them right, get them right, keep them, and then when you win the Super Bowl, then everybody's going to want to write a book, everybody's going to get paid, and then people are going to leave. So in the process, manipulating salary cap and doing all the things that you can to keep that team and the core of your team intact. But with this, Brock Purdy's not going to Carolina and making them a Super Bowl contender. No. He's just not. Brock Purdy can go to a team like the team he's on, Detroit, good teams, if he was a free agent, that say, okay, you're one of the guys, you're not that guy. He's become that guy salary-wise at $45 million. That's a hell of a pay raise for a guy that I think people still have questions on. What happens when McCaffrey and Kittle and Fred Warner are all hurt? What do we do then? There's a handful of guys in the league. Josh Allen can carry you when things aren't well. We saw it back with Dan Marino. We've seen it with Elway's. But in order to win Super Bowls, what did Elway need? Terrell Davis. You've got to have good players. So with this, is $45 million fair for Brock Purdy? And secondly, can Brock Purdy take this team back to a Super Bowl if they are not loaded on both sides of the ball.
Sean, my West Coast Rams, LA Rams bias is probably going to kick in here, but obviously Purdy is a bus rider, not a bus driver, as our friend Charles Barkley would say. And I've had this conversation with Cam Newton on my show. Purdy is a bus rider, Sean. Like you said, he ain't putting him on his shoulder. And brass tacks here, Sean, is the roster has aged in front of our very eyes tremendously fast, and their window, in my opinion, has closed because of that. You got to get the Greenlaws, the Warners on defense. You got to lock the Lenore down on offense. You paid a guy at the running back position, which you'll get into later after the Saquon Barkley signing yesterday. They did that with CMC 2 years ago, and he hasn't played many games since. And that is another reason why this offense has aged in front of our very eyes. You got rid of Debo. Ayuk set out last year, wanted more money. They gave it to him. Then he gets hurt first snap. This is the thing. Yep. This is the player empowerment I talk about, and this is what I hate about the game where we've gotten to. The ROI from the club, from the organization, also needs to be warranted, right? It also needs to have a return on the investment for the organization, so we can have competitive football in the NFL. I don't know if we're there because of the player empowerment has superseded everything that we grew up on, you and I, meaning play our contracts out, etc. This roster is aged, and I don't know if you can get it back. And I'm truly a believer that if this guy got that money offered and he don't take it, I would play hardball if I'm the Niners. I seriously would, Sean, because I'm going to spin back a question before you go. If the Niners said, here's $38 million, and that's our best offer, if you don't like it, go shop. Please tell me one team going to offer him $40 million out there that has a quarterback spot open. I don't see it. You're not going to offer this guy $40 million outside of the 49ers, who you're comfortable with in that organization, who you're loyal with because you're the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant. 3 years ago, you made $700K. Here it is, son, $38 million. Please, I had this argument. There's not a team out there. Raiders going to give him 40? No. Are the Colts? No.
JB, I can tell you this. I respect his game and I respect his grind. But he is I hate saying this, but for some guys it fits. He's a system quarterback. It fits.
Of course.
You get to play some sideways football. Every now and then you can mix in the stuff down the field because you've set it up and manufactured opportunities to take shots.
He ain't going to Buffalo, right, Sean? He ain't going to Buffalo and doing with that shit. He ain't running that shit.
No. That's my next question. And I've supported Purdy because, listen, as a guy who thought he was going to be drafted high, shredded his knee twice, and then ended up coming into the league as a free agent. I love the guys who kind of beat the system, right, JB? Because when he came in at practice, when he was a rookie as a last pick of the draft, what you do is every day at practice feels like it's a Super Bowl because you got to make every damn throw. You can't miss a mental rep. You can't miss a physical rep because if a first rounder does that, he gets 4 years to buy time. If the guy in Purdy's situation comes in and does it, well, they'll cut you for the next third string quarterback, right? But it was the perfect storm. He came in, and then when he came in, he's a hell of a leader. But when he came in, the guys rallied to him because he didn't try to play hero ball and fit in perfect. Now, when you got McCaffrey out, Kittle gets banged up, Ayuk's hurt, Jennings. Now we're saying, okay.
Jennings your best wideout, Sean. Jennings your best wideout. You didn't even pay. You didn't expect him to be your best wideout.
That's exactly right. So now you're saying, okay, because I always judge it by when all things being equal, can you take my team and elevate it when we got average players? Not everybody. I don't mean that as a blanket statement on the whole team, but when we got overall not as explosive offense as the Detroit Lions, what do you do then? And so,
but that's the it factor, right?
That's exactly
the it factor. Yeah.
My thing is that no. To answer your question, would they be standing in line at $38 million to pay him? The answer is no. Would there be somebody, and you know this league, brother, that says we'll pay you 40? Tennessee, I think they would. The question is, who's the coach that takes that coach? Did he fall in love with him? But I think it's a system like this. You got to be able to play horizontal football. Purdy does well as he makes the simple play because you know what I think is his biggest strength? I actually think he recognizes his weaknesses. Not, you know what I'm saying? Those guys who don't try to do shit that they're not used to doing because you're not pushing it down the field or doing the things Allen is. But he's an underrated athlete. He can get a little time with his feet. But if you go through, remember what Rodgers went through in Green Bay to win his Super Bowl? They were 9-7. They had to go on the road the entire time during that Super Bowl run. I had 10 or 11 guys on injured reserve that year. He goes on the run, bingo, bango, bongo, wins the Super Bowl. That was the guy who could carry you on his back when everything else was going wrong, like a great pitcher can, or when a Mike Trout's rolling, or when Aaron Judge for a month is hitting home runs. That's not who Purdy is. Purdy needs great players around him, and then they got to stay healthy, and then the system's got to fit what he does. Much respect, $45 million's plenty. I'm talking about plenty. And if the 49ers were played hardball and say, you take 45 or get out the door, he can search long and hard. I love him. He ain't getting $45 million from a soul out there right now. Yet what's crazy, $45 million a year average makes him, JB, about the 11th paid quarterback in the league. Now I want you to think about that for a second. You're in the second, the 10 to 15 range quarterbacks, and you're pumping out $45 million a year. I don't see how you can even negotiate any further than that. That's not a line in the sand by the 49ers. That's a line that is concrete, etched in stone. You either take it or get to step, and there is no way on God's green earth he turns that down. And if you pay him 50, you're a dumb shits. I'm a Purdy fan. I am. I'm a Purdy fan, but JB, no way. You're exactly right. Matter of fact, I would think there's a bunch of teams that if you pulled them quietly and said $40 million for Brock Purdy, what are you doing? They'd say I'm drafting a guy. That's what they'd say, more than likely.
Yeah.
But
Sean, I think there's three quarterback mistakes or errors this franchise has made, and I like Lynch, and Shanahan to me is a good coach. I don't think he's in the Sean McVay realm. Basically, hasn't gotten over the hump with a loaded rosters get in the last 3 or 4 years, and him not getting it done to me.
They have like a Pro Bowl player at every position the last couple of years. Yeah,
9 of them on each side of the ball. I mean, you go back to Atlanta when he was OC, up 28-3 on the Patriots. We all know about that debacle. I kind of question Lynch and Shanahan's decisions on the Trey Lance signing that I think has set this team back to today. I think now you're facing that wrath. Then you get a Sam Darnold, and now are you looking back, Sean, and saying, shit, we just had this guy in our goddamn practice. We just had him on our team, and he goes and wins 14. We could have probably paid him nothing, and then figured it out. Now you got him going to Minnesota, probably going to sign for 40. And then you got Purdy, who is Mr. Irrelevant. You've given him the chance, like you said. But now I'm like, I got to overpay a guy who's probably going to be under delivering.
And you know what, JB, about that? And he was there, and he's, in that Shanahan loved him. They loved him when he came out of Southern Cal.
I know.
And they've been trying a way to get him, and then they get him, and Purdy's the starter, so he doesn't get to show his skill set. And then you get a McVay, Kevin O'Connell, that Zach Taylor group and Shanahan that are all in the same group, and he goes to O'Connell with the same system, and Sam hits the ground running and plays out of his mind. So the interesting thing about which leads me to the Purdy thing, really, JB, they got no choice. They're going to pay him, right? In that 40 to 45, meaning Purdy. That's obvious because they do like him. But here's one thing. Are you going to love him if injuries hit again and you pay that money? Are you good enough to be a 10, 11, 12-win team if you're injured? Or does it have to be the perfect storm like it was when he got the starting job? And I have a lot of respect for Purdy. But we're getting into rarefied air for seventh-round picks 3 years ago.
And Sean, you mentioned it. How many quarterbacks can you get in there and plug and play on a roster like the Niners and do the same exact thing? Now, it's a gamble, it's a crapshoot, but we could sit up here and debate it, and we could probably say, you know what? Every 6 guys right now who are going to be in new places this offseason, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston. Could you get those guys and go in the Niners on this roster and pretty much 10, 11 win season every year?
Jameis you might struggle with because he'd turn it over too much for them, but he's an explosive thrower.
He's not a Shanahan fit. Yeah.
It is, and you think about this. I mean, if they didn't have it, let's say Purdy was gone. Let's say he went. They traded him. He went somewhere else. Another guy that Shanahan would like, I'm sure, is Kirk Cousins because he had him in Washington and understands his game, and the system would flow pretty well for him. It leads me more on this 49er thing. Blackjack McDowell, by the way, is going to join us, former Cy Young winner. in 1993. He'll join us here in about 10 or so minutes. But about this 49er thing, and I don't think it's talked about enough. And Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. You don't keep winning like this. He is. And I love John Lynch, and I know you do too. But at what point in time do we keep doing this and they keep in the big games and big moments? Kyle Shanahan, is he still a sacred cow? Are they? I know they're tied at the hip, he and John. And I'm posing this question because every year, because I've been going on in San Francisco for years now, every year, at some point during the season, people are saying, what the hell's going on? And then they go on a roll. Last year, they didn't get on that roll. Matter of fact, they weren't very good, and they weren't good. So with that and the injuries and all the things that went on, now the question is, how long's Kyle Shanahan's leash? I mean, I know he's won, but I'm not saying from us. I'm saying from an NFL standpoint, damn, you can be a hot commodity one day and your ass out the door 2 years later. So what if they're not a playoff team this year? And what if they lose some big games to keep them out of the playoffs? So they get to the playoffs and lose in the first round. Then what? Is Kyle Shanahan a top 5 coach in this league?
I don't believe so. I think he's the most overrated coach in this league. I'm gonna be honest.
You think the name value has something to do with it? It's the big games the big games bother me a little bit, JB. They just do.
Yeah, they always have. They always have. Especially when you got a guy like Sean McVay, who's 10 years younger, who just basically has beaten you twice in the playoffs and has the ring, who's been to 2, just like you, but he's actually won 1. You haven't, Shanahan, and that's the problem with a team that we can argue is better on paper in those 3 years than the Eagles team who just won it all. So,
the best roster in football, if they weren't first, they weren't third, leading up to this past year, when healthy, it was the San Francisco 49ers. And Purdy stepped into a great situation to get paid, no doubt.
Yeah, and Sean, I'm just saying, I think those two, you alluded to it, those two are probably a package deal. I would assume if they don't get it done, they're both fired. Would you not?
Yeah, I'm going to say I would set the over-under. Let's say this year they make the playoffs and get eliminated or don't make the playoffs. I would say the leash gives them one more year, and if they don't again, or if it's early, and I'm talking about that's the max leash I'm talking about. If they don't give them, and I honestly, while they're tied at the hip, I still think that they'd side with that they would keep Lynch, and that would be tough on Kyle Shanahan or tough on Lynch to let Kyle go.
Let me ask you, Sean, is the Shanahan name from his dad, who I just played golf with Pat in Vegas not too long ago, is the dad's attachment to him and having that name giving him more leash than a lot of guys? Because, Sean, I got to be honest, we've seen Andy Reid in Philly not get it done and get fired. We've seen a guy in Peterson win it all in Philly and then 1 year later was gone.
Out.
So why is he getting so much preferential treatment when it comes to the same situation is all I'm asking.
Yeah, JB, a couple things. One is it just takes one guy that's got pull like a general manager to love you. John Lynch and Shanahan, boom, tied at the hip and have been in both contracts that the first one and the extension, right?
To sign another one, yeah.
2 is I think it's a blessing and a curse. Here's why. You're good. Listen, legacy, all that not only the dad and the legacy of the father and Mike, but also that nepotism. Think about all the coaches whose sons have got an opportunity before somebody probably more qualified when they got their opportunity as a coordinator's head coach. Not qualified because of DNA, qualified because they've been in the league longer, what have you. But we shifted to that young thing, right? The young coaches, and even though Pete's in his 70s, but this 30-something coaching gig that these guys get. So the blessing is, people know me quicker because my dad's got Super Bowl rings, and he's got a reputation to being the best run game coach on the planet. And he's a micromanaging Tony La Russa type that put his thumb on it, but they won. So that going in, you're like, well, Kyle's got to have the same thing. The curse is that if you don't live up to it and you keep getting beat in big games, guess what? Now it's, I don't care anymore. That nepotism doesn't work. Now, Kyle's past the nepotism. He's earned the right to be a head coach, and he's done a great job. But as we extend this out, JB, then you start to look at, here's the opposite. Well, he's not as good as his old man. And look what happens to the team when McDaniels leaves, when Mike McDaniel leaves, and when DeMeco Ryans leaves, when Robert Saleh leaves. What's going on now? and then the cumulative. So the question is, and then all the Shanahan tree stuff, not only from Mike to him, but Kyle and McVay, that group that all these guys are getting coaching, O'Connell and Zach Taylor. So I think it works, and I think it keeps you around an extra minute, JB, but near the end, it's like, he's just not his dad. Got to let him go, right? So I think this is the biggest, Mike McDaniel, well, we got Josh McDaniels and Mike McDaniel in Miami. But I'll tell you, Mike's leash, even though how long is that going to last in Miami if they keep getting there and not happening? So that whole thing, it's tough to win. But I do think this is the most – I know losing Super Bowls and coming back is a pain in the ass. This may be as much pressure as Kyle's under because he's losing roster depth, but also the pressure to mount to go win one. And they're not as good on paper as they've been in the last couple of years. That's a problem.
Hey, Sean, if this quarterback thing doesn't work out and you do sign, let's say we do sign him for $45 million, and it ends up being a bust, and they don't either A, succeed in the playoffs, or B, don't even make it, does it go back to the Trey Lance debacle and showing now that these two have failed at the quarterback position? Because it's like I said on my show, Sean, it's like putting hubcaps on a Lamborghini. You had the best roster in football for 3 years, and your quarterback, arguably, we can argue, has been the reason you haven't gone on. And I don't know how long can you continue this?
Well, listen, the 49ers, winning's one thing, but winning championships is what they're about. You get into the playoffs is not enough. They're past that. That may be good enough for a team right now like Chicago getting to the playoffs because of their recent history. That's not 49ers. Getting to the playoffs is just – You're like the 12th. You're in 14th place, right? When you get there, or 7th place in your conference. So, I do think the leash is a little tighter right now, JB. I don't think there is no doubt about it. And with the pressure to do that, and if it doesn't work out, you also tie it to the general manager because of the money. When it comes to Brock Purdy, there's no question about it. And so I think this is a pressure-packed, pressure-filled year for him. Because if you don't do it this year and you miss the playoffs, then it's going to start to be, well, can't we win with other players? What's going on? Why aren't we getting what we need to get done?
And don't let the Rams and McVay win.
Oh, yeah. Because the comparison is going to start there out there in the West. There's no doubt about it. So it's obviously an unfinished story, but we're to the point now with franchises like this, the leash, like on a player, is they're going to, the rumblings will start if they already, and I've heard the whispers have started the last couple of years. And let's not forget, Jimmy Garoppolo, they paid him, remember? And it worked out for a minute, but didn't work out the way they wanted it. And then with Trey Lance, that didn't work out a lick because he couldn't play a lick in Washington, or in San Francisco, couldn't get on the field. And then Brock Purdy, that's worked out, but they still haven't put the ring on their finger. And it's even going to follow back to Kyle before he was the head coach when he was in Atlanta, and they had a big lead, and that turned sour on them. So that does follow you around. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how far the ownership of the 49ers, because history and tradition can be a bitch for a coach trying to fill shoes, right? You really can.
Yeah, there's no question, especially when there's
now. How many years now? It's been, what are we, 7,
6?
8 years as a 49er head coach? It ain't like it's 3 years ago.
Yeah, last 7, yeah. And here's the thing, too, Sean, while you wait for your guest, I got to be honest, like, especially with the names that are out here floating around right now, 2 of them, and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, have won Super Bowls, and they're going to be sitting around. You can get on the cheap. They're older, sure, but god dang, that experience and that arm talent for Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson still there. So even though they're older and you may want the youthful Brock Purdy, but is it a 1-year deal to get you a ring in San Francisco? That's a huge thing to a burden on your deal there. So
the argument with Rodgers is so valid. I can tell you this though, from my vantage point, and I don't know how far off we are on this. While Wilson gives you Super Bowl experience, if you said, Sean, at the same money or even lesser money for Wilson, which would be a lot less than what Purdy's going to make, who gives you a better chance to win a Super Bowl? Brock Purdy over Wilson in my mind. Now, I can't say that. I'm not sure about the Rodgers thing. Hell, I'm not even sure about the Darnold thing. I mean, he's not going anywhere. They're going to sign Purdy because he's not going to fight over $50 million when he was, he's not going to look the gift horse in the mouth. But you want to get the bag as quickly as much as you can because how long is the bag going to be there? But
Sean, if I got to ask you a question. If they sign Purdy, is he going So is he the sole? Is Brock Purdy going to be the reason of the 49ers' demise if they pay him the money that we think he's going to get? Because how do you manipulate the roster salary cap, even though it's gone up? How are you going to fill the spots that you need on a team that lacks weapons? You got an injured Brandon Ayuk. You got rid of Debo. You got a Brandon Jennings who's been your best wideout, who, to be honest, is probably a number 3 on 30 of 32 teams. And you got a Kittle who's seemingly aged in front of our very eyes, and your best overall talent, CMC, is a figment of who he was. And you did sign Trent Williams, your best left tackle in football. You re-signed him to a 2-year deal. So, okay, you solidified your left side, your quarterback's blind side, but do you really pay this guy the money that he wants? Yep. And is it going to be the demise of your franchise, in my opinion? That's the question I asked you. If you give him 45.
We're going to continue this conversation. I'll just say this real quick before we get to Jack McDowell is he the guy that's going to save the franchise? Only if the roster is great. If they have an average roster, you won't see them sniff the Super Bowl for 5 years because they can't. He's got to have great players around him. So hold that thought. And Triple E, we got Jack McDowell in. Is Jack there?
I don't think he's in yet.
Oh, yes. He isn't. Okay. But yeah, Triple E, just let us know. You can pop on and let us know when Jack gets on. Listen.
But Sean, would you give 10 mil though? Would you give 10 mil to Aaron Rodgers for 1 year and risk it and get a better roster around Aaron Rodgers and try to win it? Or would you give 40 to this kid?
With that, though, let's look at the logic of it. I get what you're saying, talent, skill set. But if I give 10 or 15 mil, like a 1 year, $15 million deal, am I still paying Purdy $45 million? Are you saying let him go?
No, I'm saying let him go and get you that one ring.
They ain't winning a ring with Aaron Rodgers next year. Not with that roster, even though Aaron's still a good player.
Not with that roster. That's my point. But do you pay Aaron Rodgers 15 and then fill the holes on the roster? Is my point.
If Aaron Rodgers walks after a year or two, then you got to find another quarterback like there's one every year is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Rams did it with Stafford. The first year they won it all. Guess what they did? They put all the money in that pot. They go and win it. And Sean, you could answer this question for everybody. How long does the Super Bowl last? 5 years at least for an organization? It's worth the window? No. You win that one Super Bowl, that risk outweighs the reward for at least 5 years for give you some grace, right?
Oh, you're talking about hall pass wise.
Yeah, you won one.
Hell yes. You got to be really bad to win a Super Bowl and then get fired 2 years later. Oh, there's no question about it. Or get cut as a quarterback. There's no question about it. That buys you. Hell, you can shit the bed 5 times over and still get some run. I respect Purdy. He's not going to carry a franchise on his back. He's a good player. But when it gets right down to it, the roster has to be loaded. Aaron Rodgers, you can have a little bit less. With the question for me, as we've talked about, is Aaron Rodgers still all in on football, which I got to figure out, and how, like Cousins' injury from that Achilles, Rodgers' Achilles, neither one of them came back well, and it showed last year. I think Purdy's a really good player, JB, but if you go through a month where you're struggling, that isn't the one. Sam Darnold's a better thrower of the football, if that's what you're asking. He is, and Rodgers. But there's a leader that love Purdy. But man alive, you got to have players. It can't. And if you don't,
but if you fill that roster, you fill that roster spot for 1 year bridge quarterback, and you go get a Russell, Aaron Rodgers, whoever it may be, Kirk Cousins, to your point, for 1 year, and you fill the roster holes that you have right now, and get your defense.
$30 million you got, or so.
Yeah, and you're telling me within 5 years you won't get you another quarterback in San Francisco?
You know what the truth is, JB? I don't really give a shit about 5 years from now. When people say, we got to save it, screw those assets. I'm winning now because in 5 years, if they don't win, Kyle Shanahan won't have a job in San Francisco, and my guy John Lynch won't either. And I love John, but you just won't. So it's like in college. That's why they go get the senior guy who's transferred 3 times to lead Notre Dame and Ohio State, because that head coach wants a contract extension, right?
How many freshmen are starting in college? How many freshmen are starting?
100%. So. Yeah, man. I mean, you free it up and you go about it, but I ain't worried about 2028. The truth of the matter is, JB, I don't give 2 shits about 2027. I care about now and possibly part of 2026. I'll find a way to manipulate and get guys to redo their contract salary cap wise. But right now, The 49ers team, as we sit today, there's no way you can make them the favorite in the West. There's absolutely no way. And Brock Purdy is going to get paid, but to cap off this conversation, if you don't take $45 million a year, somebody needs to sit down with him. Matter of fact, come to my house, lay on the couch, and I'll be your psychologist as we walk you through it. I would think he's smarter than that and is being advised better. But disrespectful to go from less than a mill-based salary to 45. Get the out of here, right? Stop it. So,
and our guy coached him. Our guy Gio coached him in Arizona before he went to Iowa. So,
and our guy Gio's a good coach. You've seen a lot of those guys run through Scottsdale in his training program. And listen, Purdy's an overachiever. There is no question, and that's okay. But at $45 million, you got to achieve everything. It can't just be get you to the playoffs. $45 million tells me you better be in a Super Bowl. And that's why there's going to be so much pressure on Prescott. What's he making, 60? Up next, 75.
And there's just no guarantee, Sean.
Right.
And that's the problem. So
unbelievable. Which, hopefully we'll get Blackjack McDowell that we can get anything that we need to do and walk him through it to get on. But 1993 Cy Young winner. JB, let me get this in real quick for our great advertisers, and Tricera is one of them. The golden age of America is here, and opportunities, guys, are endless. The only thing standing between you and success is capital. You got to have capital. At Tricera.com, advanced AI technology scans thousands of funding sources to match your business with the perfect lenders, investors, and credit options instantly. When you need 250 grand up to 100 million bucks, programs for your business of all sizes. We got them. No more rejections, no more wasted time, just fast AI-powered results, and AI is where it's headed. Ray Smith, CEO, my guy of Tricera, built this Fortune 100 funding system to give small businesses the same financial power as big corps. This is your moment. The golden age is here. It's right in front of you. Do you want your business up and running and funded? Well, let's seize it or go for it. Which one? Are you going to seize it? Are you going to go for it? Both of them must. Don't miss that opportunity. You seize it now. Go to AITricera.com now and let the AI find the perfect funding for your business. That's AITricera.com, because smart businesses use smart funding. JB, to the Dallas Cowboys. This organization, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, and they're not America's team. We got to stop with that. That's long since been gone. Now, I know because the star in the middle of the field, it's long since gone. I love Jerry as a marketer. Jerry would have fired Jerry 500 times over if that was the way the GM took care of the team. That guy would have been fired if it was how Jerry's made results. Jerry's a genius marketer. The players, the ownership, all that stuff, powerful. When it comes to a GM, they will not win a Super Bowl until he allows somebody else to handle that. I'm just telling you. And I love Jerry Jones. But football-wise, they'll pee in your face and tell you it's raining, brother. They just will. I know you may think they're a little bit closer than I do. And listen, they're a good team. But right now, you give me Philly all day, every day in the East. I'm just telling you. And Washington right now, I think they fall in third. I just do. And right now, as much as Prescott's getting paid, I'm lining up with Hurts and I'm lining up with Jaden Daniels before I am Prescott at $60 million a year. I think that he's got a lot to prove yet. He's a good player. He is. And we got a lot of those guys. We got to stop comparing everybody to Mahomes or Brady, because those guys don't just fall off a turnip truck and land in your fucking lap. With this case, the Dallas Cowboys are a minute away. And I mean a long minute, not a New York minute, a country mile, right, JB? It's going to take a minute for the cows to come home. How close do you think they are? What's Jerry's splash move this offseason? Where's it coming from? The splash move so far has been what? Zach Martin's retired, right? You no longer have him. And the strength of the Cowboys has always been get those guys first, and then you fill in around them. Offensive line's going to need help. Defense has got to get better. The running game was putrid. The quarterback play without Dak Prescott, in the 2023 season, he was a runner-up in the MVP. That's got to get better. Your perimeter players outside of CD Lamb got to get better. So when you talk about marquee guys on the roster that are difference makers, they need some help. So how much are we going to get Jerry to spend on America's team, and how much? When are they going to be? When I say competitive, they've been competitive, but I guess maybe it's become the standard. You can go win 11, 12 games for the Cowboys and not get to a Super Bowl and still think that the mid-90s, 94 Cowboys team still exists. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Aikman ain't coming out of retirement. Emmett ain't running the football. That offensive line, when you got that dominant offensive line, they're not around. Guess who's got no eligibility left? Stepnoski ain't playing anymore. So Jay Novacek ain't catching balls for you anymore. So we're Darren Woodson knocking your dick in the dirt. So the Cowboys, while they're winning games, they feel like a January team to me that struggles, to get to January, but they're a January team. I still don't see them as a February team anytime soon right now, Jay. I just don't.
Sean, here's a question I have for you. Dak Prescott is a regular season quarterback, and you and I know what that means. A lot of the chat may not, but when you got a guy like Cooper Rush, who in the same amount of games per capita, if we're speaking per capita, has more wins than your $60 million guy, that's a problem. I'm just going to be honest. And when you see him throw a pick six in a Niners game 2 years ago to go on to the NFC title game, because your defense locked the Niners down, and you throw a pick six the other way as a $60 million guy, in essence, lost that game, there's a problem. And Jerry Jones was that close away, winning 12 games a year, and you can't get over the hump. Last year they go down and they win, what, 7? So you're now out of the mix in the East, and you have now more holes to fill than you did, obviously, a year ago. They're offering $40 million a year to Micah Parsons. That's question one to you. Is he worth it? Question two to you is, CeeDee Lamb got renegotiated yesterday, restructured contract along with Dak, opened up about $70 million to play with. Who do you get is your question to me. You got a guy named DK Metcalf out there that can be a complementary weapon to CeeDee Lamb. You don't have a running back. So in the draft, it's one of the best running back drafts we've had in recent history. I would say you draft a running back. Ashton Genty falls to you or someone like that. And now you got to replace your center. You got to get some edge help. I don't know, Sean. There's a lot of holes. There's a lot of holes out there on this roster, to your point. And Jerry Jones just is not getting any younger. And I don't think he wants to end it this way. I think he wants to go out as a winner. And I don't know,
he's
Sean.
Not, the current way they're doing things, he's not. He'll go out as a marketing champ of the world, a great owner, and a fun dude. But I got news for you.
They're better off with your guy, Trojan himself, Rodney Peete, than they are right now.
Don't hit my guy RP, man. That's my boy, man. You don't want to dog
They're struggling with $60 million. Listen, is he not an overpaid under-deliverer at this point in his career, Dak Prescott?
Well, yeah. At 60, he's the highest paid yearly average guy in the league. So, yeah, hey, listen, if you don't have a ring on your finger, I'm not talking about a wedding ring, I'm talking about a Super Bowl ring. If you don't have that ring on your finger at $60 million a year. Now, it's unfair that we always put it on the quarterback because we never look at the right guard and say, hey, man, you got a Super Bowl ring? Oh, that's just the bonus. But we do the quarterback, that's just part of that. That's part and parcel of what we do. JB, I really believe this. Yes, at $60 million, it's an underachiever. I hold Dak in a little higher regard than a lot of people do, but I think he's a January quarterback as well. I do. And Dak is Jimmy Garoppolo, who's Kirk Cousins, who's Derek Carr, who's – I can go through a litany of them, dude, who, quite frankly, and people are going to get pissed, but right now, when it comes to January, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are January quarterbacks right now, yet they're still in my top 5 players in the league. So you get my point that we criticize Dak at winning 12 games and getting to January and losing far more than we criticize Josh or Lamar. When they get to a certain point, we'll make excuses to why they didn't win it, but it's always somebody else, but it's Dak when the Cowboys will win it. So I'm not saying Dak is Josh or Lamar. But what I am saying, how many Super Bowl rings Buffalo got lately? And how many Super Bowl rings Baltimore got? You get my point. Yet, if you say, Sean, who do you want Josh Allen? Yeah. I say, you ain't getting a number 3 without me taking that cat. And Lamar Jackson, too. So much respect. But if we're judging quarterbacks by that, they're in the January quarterback. But I don't see that kind of falls into that. I believe he's got to have really good players around him, too, right? You know what I'm saying? He'll put up numbers. Yeah. Cousins puts up numbers. Great regular season guy. In January, something goes up.
Golf. You're still lacking.
And at least he's been to one, but he didn't play very well in the one he's been to. and they had all
That
the
was here in LA.
well, and last year, or the season just ended. When you're at home and got a chance to do it, you can't turn the ball over that much, and that's going to follow him around all the way, and it's going to sit in his craw until next fall. So, I would imagine Jerry wants to win, but how badly?
The only reason I'm smiling is because I know people are chatting and stuff and mentioning. You and I had a great viral clip about we broke down Derek Carr years ago on.
Yeah. What the fuck are you looking at? One of the all-time great viral clips. Well, we'll have plenty more on this show. I assure you. Stay tuned. If we're not viral 3 times a week, I'll be tripping. Okay, and it won't be because it's a hot take. It'll be because that's how we friggin' believe. But with that, JB, with the Cowboys situation, we say Jerry wants a championship, and I know he does. He's a competitive son of a bitch. I know that. But I can tell you this. He's never – and I've told you my affinity for the Schottenheimer family. I love Marty. God bless him. I loved him, and I thought he's great. And Brian's a good football coach. But one thing is, he wouldn't have been on the 10 thought process going out and getting the guys. And you know what? Jerry's never going to hire Belichick. He's never going to – he was never hiring Dion. Why? Because Jerry absolutely has to be the face, the voice, everything. When your owner is the face of the organization, you're fucked. Okay? I'm just telling you, you are. When a quarterback or a player or an edge rusher or the head coach, I'll even give the head coach. But even then, Belichick, Brady, I want my face of the franchise to be an actual guy who has a football in his hand. That's just me. So he wasn't going to hire Dion. He's never going to hire Belichick. He'd never hire Andy Reid. He's not going to hire anybody that when people go to the press conference, Jerry's not the first one they have to talk to. To me, right off the bat, you're telling me that there's a priority problem. And like I said, I love Jerry, but I don't love him as a GM, and I don't want him as the face of my franchise. He is the face. It isn't Dak Prescott. It's not even Micah Parsons. It's Jerry Jones. So starting there. And then we say, well, he wants to win. Well, did he offer Ben Johnson the head coaching job? Sure didn't. Did he offer Nick Saban the head coaching job? Did he offer Bill Belichick the head coaching job? Whatever the names are, I'm just telling you right now, if Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, and whoever your favorite, Ryan Day, if he's your favorite college coach, I don't really give a damn who you think it is. And they all wanted the Cowboy job. You know how many of them would get it? 0. When this was going on, you know who I said they're going to hire? It's going to be somebody like with the Schottenheimer, Kellen Moore. Maybe Kellen Moore will be great in New Orleans. It's going to be a guy, Jason Garrett, who is under his watchful eye, that will make every move that Jerry wants to make. Doesn't want anything to do with personnel, just wants to be a first-time head coach. And guess what? They got him, Brian Schottenheimer. He's a good football coach. We'll go find out real quick, is he a head coach or is he a position coach coordinator? And I got news for you. There's a big difference. I'm hoping for Brian that it works out. But that's why when I question, is everything into the winning? And you and I both know, JB, that with some of the decisions, and last offseason proved to me that the arrogance of that, to think that you can go win with that list of players you had, and you had no offseason move. Nah, brother. I call bullshit on it. I don't think they're ready for February. They haven't been ready for February.
Great job he did as an actor, by the way. Landman, the movie, if you haven't seen it, Jerry Jones did a fucking Oscar award-winning performance. He should go act.
I'm a big lad, and Bill Bob Thornton's. I call him Bill Bob instead of Billy because I just like to call him Bill Bob. Bill Bob Thornton, I think, he and Woody Harrelson are the most underrated actors going. Oh, yeah. But whenever they're in it, they just always steal the show. Yeah. Billy Bob Thornton in this role is awesome, and you are 100% correct. Jerry Jones is a better actor than he is a general manager.
Holy shit! Hell of a job.
The tears. I said, shit, Jerry, do me a favor. Let your son or somebody else be the GM. Yeah. Just go be a regular on Landman. Because I thought with Jerry Jones, but you know what? He didn't have to act. He's the powerful owner.
He did. Yeah.
He loves these little emotions.
Everything he did was real story. The real story about Frisco and California, where he started his money.
That's what I'm saying is I thought he was best supporting actor in a drama or whatever we're calling Landman. Great show if you haven't seen it. And by the way, go watch Reacher too. If you're not the lead child,
Reacher. The new episode came out last night.
Yeah, Reacher's off the charts. All right, so to answer your question, JB, the commitment to a championship, you got to show me something in the offseason, because right now, they're the third best team in the division, and you and I both know it.
And you talk about NFC, Sean. As you move on here, you got the Rams climbing up the Eagles' ass. You got the Vikings and the Lions. You're falling further and further down and getting into your 7 playoff spots or whatever it is.
Right.
You're not going to get in the NFC right now as strong as the NFC is.
No question. And then the AFC, if for these teams in the AFC, the gauntlet of quarterbacks you got to go through to win the damn thing, you either better be lucky. You better have somebody miss the team bus. I mean, you could be the 6th best quarterback in the AFC, and the 5 guys in front of you are like, shit, this is tough sledding. All right, JP, we got a lot more. Hopefully we'll get Blackjack on in the next couple days. I know Phil Sims hopefully will join us this week. We got a lot of people. John Smoltz is going to join us, but he's on a trip out of the country. We got great guests as we continue to roll along towards baseball and this football offseason, and great insight all over the place. JP, I want to switch to baseball for a second, which has to do with football and basketball. And I asked this question. I can't wait till we get, whether it's Blackjack or somebody else on here to discuss who've seen both sides of it. In football, we take a guy and we're not afraid to play him as a rookie, right, JB? I mean, those guys are sometimes the best player on your damn team. We're not afraid to take an 18-year-old kid who played one and done at Kentucky and go start, and in 2 years, he's as good a player. I mean, you get a John Morant from Memphis or wherever who goes and dominates basketball, right? You get guys like that sometimes these young kids are as good as you got, one and doneers in the NBA, and they play them right off the bat, and you go. You got a little bit of G League. I know you got in football, we got the spring league, but not a true minor league system. We get to baseball. And you get a guy, and the reason I say this, there's a guy named Cam Smith, who is a guy traded in the Kyle Tucker trade from the Cubs. He's the number 1 prospect for the Astros. He's raking in spring training. So I beg the question, is why in baseball, I know you got single A, double, the true, you go into winter league, all the stuff you're doing. But why are we afraid in baseball to let a guy fail at the major league level that he goes and rakes and competes in spring training, and you say that guy's got future? Why are we so afraid to let that guy struggle as a major leaguer? Hell, Baltimore is littered with guys. They've done it the opposite. They said they've been in the minor leagues. Put them up there and let's go, man. And they've got a bunch of guys that look like they were a Sigma Nu fraternity guys, a bunch of white boys that are just, with the long hair that these 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds are wearing. And they go in there and they let them fail, and then they succeed. And Baltimore's become one of the better teams in baseball. Well, when it shifts to this, why are we so afraid to let a guy get his ass whipped as a pitcher, or let a hitter go hit 220 in the month of April as a guy who could be in Double A, but he's proven that he competed? Why can't we let him learn against major league pitching or against major league hitting, as opposed to having to wait and you go through 3 or 4 years? Now, there's guys like Chris Bryant or guys that Mike Trout or Bryce Harper, who don't spend a lot of time in the minors. But why are we afraid? Why is it commonplace that we got to take a guy, hey, man, he had a great spring, send him to Double A Corpus Christi? Why is it that those guys take longer, or we wait longer for them? Why are we afraid to let them fail at the major league level instead of put them up there and get used to failure? Because you're going to fail a lot in the major league level. And if you're worried about their confidence, why the hell would I draft them in the first round anyway?
Isn't there money? You know better than me about the baseball money, but like as far as a rookie quarterback starting, let's say Caleb Williams, versus a guy like in baseball where you go and get money out of high school to go AAA or Double A. So how much of a factor does that play into this thing?
I'll tell you what the biggest factor is. It's the years of control you have on him, because when Chris Bryant came out, that people were I remember I was at the spring training game in Scottsdale at Salt River Fields right there when he came out, and people were craving him. Hadn't been in the minors long, saying, we got to get him on the major league roster. Well, he goes on and wins an MVP later on. But I can remember sitting in the stands, and there was Cub fans there. We were sitting down at the third baseline, and they were having the conversation. So we were all into it together and talking about the only reason why is the club, by putting him in at a certain date and certain games, that you lose that control. You lose a year. They wanted to keep the year, so they held him back until that time had passed, and then they brought him up to the major league level. And I would imagine that that's the biggest reason why. But I also say this. So basically what you're doing, you actually punish the player who's ready to go, even if he's young and he doesn't have 7 years of minor league experience. I almost treat it like a rookie quarterback. If the guy, you put him in there, let him learn and get kicked in the teeth. But that's society, right? We protect him and we baby him. And then we get up and we say, okay, you gave me 5 2/3 as a pitcher. As a hitter, oh, you're 1 for 14. Oh, I'm frightened that you're going to be fragile and that you're going to lose your confidence. Well, I'm okay with you going 1 for 14 because MVPs of the league are going to go 1 for 14. But it is the control over the years, which is the number one reason. But if we didn't have that, would it be different? Would they say, you know what? We had him destined for AA, but the dude, his OPS was 1,500 in spring training against live, good pitching. I got to put him up to the major league level, especially for a team that may need, like the Astros are reeling. They don't have any outfield, dude. We're moving a second baseman Hall of Famer, Jose Altuve, to left field to learn a position that he's never played, but he's Jose Altuve, so he'll learn it. But you got him, you want his bat in the lineup, and you got a center fielder in Jake Myers, who's a defensive guy with a pop gun arm. Altuve's arm isn't exactly Vlad Guerrero's seniors or Dewey Evans or Andre Dawson or Ichiro's. And then you got right fielder Chance McCormick, who last year tried to pull everything. So their outfield struggled. So they get this big guy who looks like an outside linebacker. You get him in a trade. He's your top prospect. He's raking. But I guarantee you they're still going to find a way to send him to AA Corpus Christi or AAA Sugar Land because you want to season him. Why can't I season him against 98-mile-an-hour fastball pitchers
especially pitching 5 2/3 like you mentioned the last few days? Is this why the Dodgers have kind of cornered the market? Their farm system's been as good, the best in baseball since I was a kid.
They're always got a Rookie of the Year candidate. That's exactly right. Always.
I mean, since '88, Kirk Gibson's famous home run, the Dodgers have had the best farm system in baseball, thanks to Tommy Lasorda and everybody that they. But Houston is I know for a while Houston had a great farm club
until they got in trouble for the trash can sign. So they had to give up some first round. So it set them back. Now they develop players about as good as anybody, but they just haven't had the vast array and variety and the depth of those assets. They traded 5 assets for Zach Greinke. And then you get hit with the 2000, with what happened in 2017. So they're rebuilding these assets. But listen, you lose Correa, Pena goes and is the World Series MVP. You lose, a Martin Maldonado, who is just a defensive catcher, but boom, you get a catcher to come in and play for him. You lose Kyle Tucker, well, you get this Cam Smith, and you're going to get a third baseman in Paredes and Wisniewski, a pitcher. So you're building this up, but you can't keep losing the Springers of the world, Nat, and replenish them if the minor league system doesn't have them ready. My thing is when the guy is ready, we still give him a soft landing. I think to me it's the player. It's not the physical side I'm worried about. Can you handle mental failure or success? So it's just been and I understand that, well, this is the way baseball does it, but is it the way it always has to be that you have to wait, okay, he dominated AAA, so now we can bring him up. But what happens if he dominates AAA and he's raking and then goes 2 for 28 in Major League Baseball? I'd rather have him go 2 for 28 before he's in AAA, then go back down and prime it up and prove it. Oh, okay. And now I know what to expect. I know that that the 5th starter in Major League Baseball is better than the ace in AAA. I get all that.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's not the physical. It's the, man, if a guy's ready, especially for a team, and I'm talking Cam Smith, that he can play the corner outfields. He can play third base. He's about 6'4", 230. He's a big dude. And he's raking now. Why can't you let him learn the hard way? Because he'll have some failures, but don't you want to find out how mentally tough they are? JB, I really do.
I do.
It's been it's not just the Astros, it's anywhere. It bothers me.
Sports in general, Sean. Sports in general, in my opinion, I think you got to battle test the guy and see how tough his skin is before we make a decision. And I just don't, like you said, I think it's not fair. I don't think it's fair to the kid because what if he gets passed up and never had a shot and you get the next greatest thing that just pops up on your roster and you're like, oh shit, Cam, you're no longer a thought. So I don't know. It's just interesting.
And I think some guys, can get – I understand. Like, let me go back to the Astros, and we'll wrap this part of it up and wrap the day up, JB, because we got a ton of football. By the way, breaking news, the Bengals are going to let star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson seek a trade. Isn't that I think that's the case. So, well, I think for a defense that needs help, bad idea. I'll just leave that at that. But we're going to hit that hard. Hell, all these edge rushers are getting freed up to possibly go do something else.
Is it because they're going to go get a cheaper Bosa now? I don't know.
They have to go get somebody. Their defense is the reason they didn't make the playoffs last year.
So they're going to put all their money in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? Is that what they're going to do?
No, wait. Well, if T. Higgins get franchise making $25 million and Chase is making 35 or 40, you got $65 million locked up in wide receivers. You better get to the $5 store and hope that they work out the rest of your roster and that Burrow stays upright the whole damn year. Or you're screwed anyway, even if he does, because you can't get stops on defense. But JB, back to the thing about young players. The Astros, when they were going through these World Series, these last, when they went seven straight ALCSs, right, is their roster. You couldn't break into the roster, even if you were raking on minor leagues, because you're not playing second base. You couldn't break in over Correa, Bregman at third, Kyle Tucker and right, Yordan Alvarez. They're loaded. So guys are down there in AAA dominating, and they can't make the team. They stay down there. And at some point, it's like, okay, I'm dominating this one. Am I get my run? And then Corey Lee was a catcher here. They traded him away. He wasn't getting any run on the major league level, just a little bit. And he was their top prospect until Yainer Diaz comes along, who was behind him in the organization, and now he's the guy. But they just didn't have room to get him through, which happens to the Dodgers. They're so loaded. Hell, when the rookie comes up, he better be damn good, right? But this Astros team in particular, dude, they're fighting and scratching. He's going to have the weekend. Everybody's going to run on the Astros. Their arm, JB, you and I might be able to put a uniform on. My arm's stronger than all three of those guys combined now, okay? Now, they're defensively, Jake Myers can play. But when it comes to going from first to third on a ball in the right field corner, you're going to take it every time against the Astros. So when you get a guy like Cam Smith, seems like the time that the young guys have a chance to fit in. The question is, are they willing as a front office and an organization to have the balls to let them fail until they succeed? I understand, and the minor league system's great, but sometimes they can hover and stay down there too long, and you're like, then it gets the out of sight, out of mind. The next guy comes along, and we'll go trade the guy to go get a big-time pitcher or something at the trade deadline. So that's what they face. But, JB, with the Hendrickson tomorrow, the 5 of the quarterbacks who are available that you're going to have to fit in somewhere in the NFL, what are you doing? And now edge rushers and quarterbacks, two important positions, they're flying around free to go seek trades. The Myles Garrett, the Hendrickson, you cut Bosa. We got a lot of football to talk, as well as baseball season gets a step closer. We'll continue to talk about teams and their needs as we roll through towards the draft. JB and I will get into, in the next week or so, hardcore evaluation of the best 3 or 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this draft. And are you willing to have the balls to commit your franchise to them? Because I don't see that guy just yet. Jaden Daniels, as we talked about, I don't think he's in this draft. I really don't. And we'll give you our 5 guys that, the criteria JB and I talked about for the 5 current ones: winning, skill set, it factor, and big game players. Our top 5 in that position at quarterback. We'll get into that tomorrow. Flash funding, guys. Flash funding. JB, I still have a couple more things I want to talk to you about. Is dedicated to helping businesses grow and expand by providing the cash flow they need exactly when they need it. Instead of waiting on receivables, businesses can access immediate funding to seize growth opportunities, cover operational costs, and maintain profitability. We partner with a diverse range of businesses, not just to support their success, but to offer financing solutions beyond what traditional banks can provide. With 14 years of industry experience, our team is committed to delivering exceptional experience. We understand cash flow is the key to business growth. We're here to help you unlock it. Flash Funding offers factoring services across the continental United States, providing same-day funding with no monthly minimums or application fees. When it comes to financial flexibility, we are the ideal solution for your business needs. JB, I want to just close with this today while we're here, and we'll get to much more football tomorrow as it dominated, and it's going to dominate because off-season football seems to be as important as spring training baseball to many, and I get it. But with that in mind, a little NBA talk real quick about these Lakers. They've kind of been LeBron, they got LeBron and you got him, but they with Anthony Davis, they just keep, they've changed coaches over these last handful of years. They won in 2020. I understand the asterisks. It's not a true NBA title, although you're going to hang at the rafters. I mean, you played in a bubble and you went and played. But the Lakers now are sitting in a position. I almost feel better about the Lakers than I have in the last half a dozen years. I really do. I think the Luka Doncic get has revitalized. I mean, has a new energy to LeBron. Even though LeBron, by the way, you just can't do the shit that he does at his age physically. It's amazing. And everybody should say, how did he do it? Well, whether it's investing $2 million into nutrition and weight training and all of it, but he's playing at an exceptional level. But adding Doncic to this, the Lakers are no longer, well, they may win a playoff series. They can't win it all because Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. Well, now that you pushed him out and you got Luka in there, one guy doesn't have to dominate everything. Luka can take over a lot of scoring, and LeBron's almost become even a better facilitator now and still getting his. I think the Lakers are a legitimate threat to win the whole thing. I do. And that's counting Cleveland and Oklahoma City. Gilgeous-Alexander's performance away. We're talking 50 and 51 wins already for Cleveland in the East and Oklahoma City. Nikola Jokic is there. There are players that got stars, but I can tell you this. To me, this feels like the best chance to get to the NBA Finals that the Lakers have had sans the 2020 season.
Yeah, it probably is, Sean. Being here in LA, the hype is real. Everybody's excited about the Lakers. Jeannie Buss, who's been taking a lot of criticism over the last few years, not being able to have that, that dog in her to make a decision that may be a little bit cutthroat. Now it seems like she made the cutthroat decision, her and Rob Pelinka, Kobe's best friend, to get rid of AD, who's now in your state, Sean, in Dallas, and probably not going to play all year. And then you lose Kyrie. So it looks like that trade was definitely won by the Lakers.
We got bamboozled. The Dallas
bamboozled. And yeah, it seems like Dallas maybe wanting out of Dallas to go to Vegas. Who knows what the story will be. But at the end of the day, the Lakers, without the rim protection, everybody questioned their length. But, Sean, I got to ask you, is that really a big deal anymore when we got fucking 7-footers shooting threes as the main priority in NBA nowadays?
Yeah, you're 290 pounds.
Olajuwon down low. So
you're a 280. Well, the center game's not the same. I don't care what anybody says. You got a 280-pound 7-footer, and he's pumping trifectas as he crosses the timeline. Listen, and I understand when you get a guy like Nikola Jokic, we got some good centers in the league. It's not the years of Olajuwon and the group before. I mean, from Shaq and Olajuwon, and we can go back to Abdul-Jabbar as it's gone on. Bob Laniers and Wes Unseld and Dave Cowens, all the guys as we go through old school. I'll tell you what. You know how and we're going to talk tomorrow about the devalue, or are we revaluing and the running back? Same as the center. If you get Nikola Jokic, well, God bless you. If you get Anthony Davis, well, you're going to get half the games, and you're not going to. You get Joel Embiid, you're going to get half and not get half. But this is a perimeter guard game now. College basketball is a guard game. It just is. It's a perimeter wing guard game guy. And if you get a point guard in college basketball, you know this. You get two good guards in the tournament, you got a legitimate, even if you're undersized and don't have a dominant big man, you're a legitimate chance to win it. Give me a big man with no guards, forget it. Give me guards with an average big man that's a rim protector but doesn't score much, I got a legitimate chance to win it. The NBA is a perimeter game, obviously. Take the three-point shot away, and, boy, watch the big center and the big guys in the low block with their back to the basket. Watch it change. But I can tell you this with guard games. So that's why, JB, to answer it, can you win an NBA championship without a Ben Wallace reject? Yes, you can, as long as that perimeter domination is there. Hell, at times, even when the Golden State Warriors were winning theirs, they were undersized. They were undersized, but elite shooters and knock down threes, and then you get the versatility of a guy like Draymond Green.
You win, though, with a 40-year-old being your best player, is my question to you. Luka trying to get his legs under him.
Best player? You talking about LeBron?
Yeah, because, Luka's getting his legs under him. He hasn't taken that role yet. Eventually he will be, right? If we were to argue at this stage in their career, I'm thinking Luka's a top 3 or 4 player. But LeBron's been a top 5 player all year long at 40. And so, he's player of the month, Sean. And by the way, he was player of the month in 2005 as well. No one's ever done a 20-year gap and been player of the month 20 years apart.
Whatever he's got, whatever he's eaten, taken, you and I need it. I'll tell you. Yeah, whatever it is, dude, I don't care. Legalize it for me and you. If it's not legal, if it is legal, God bless him. Okay.
He been with your guy Barry. He been hanging out with Barry.
Listen, I ain't in his crib, and I have no idea, but I got news for you. He was carved out of stone, and he was carved, and it's still the same way. And he's getting.
Hey, Sean, I sure miss the Barry and Sosa days.
You think?
Shit.
Yeah. You think?
Well, much more exciting.
If it's not legal, make it legal. I'm all in. I like 500-foot home runs, not 330-footers. But back to LeBron. You answered the question, JB. Can a 40-year-old being your best player win an NBA championship? You know why I'm going to tell you yes? Because he plays his body and his game is like a 28-year-old. So the answer is yes. Now, you're going to have to recreate matchups when you run into Denver. You're going to have to find somebody to defend. I tell you who ain't defending Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's Luka Doncic, because you're basically playing with four guys defensively, but you're getting the take where he's going to hit you for 32. So
the Lakers own OKC in a playoff.
Right? Yes.
That's the problem. Yeah. The Lakers own the teams ahead of them. Well, now they're the 2 seed. So, I mean, they're sitting in a great spot, but they may draw a team that's really, really hot in the Golden State Warriors with Jimmy Butler edition.
I had him, I'll be honest with you. I had him left for dead the last couple of – I mean, I did, where it's like Steph's just playing it out. He'll be great, but they don't have enough. And now it's like they're scary, especially with the perimeter.
Sean King comes on, and he knows basketball like you and I do. We know basketball contrary to most people's belief. And we have a debate going on. If Steph Curry this year wins with the addition of Butler, meaning, Sean, in the big picture of things, everyone came to Steph to win a title. Steph's never left. Like Kobe, like Jordan, LeBron's left and chased it.
More than one.
Is Steph needing to be in this GOAT conversation more than LeBron's getting a lot of the credit here? Steph needs to be involved here.
There's no argument. He's the best long-range shooter ever. So he's already got that. I mean, we could throw the Ray Allens and Larry Birds and all those. This is the best one. Dirk Nowitzki for a second.
LeBron both have 4. Right. Same era.
Put it this way. Magic's still going to be my point guard. He's still my point guard on my all-time team. But I'm going to tell you this. For a guy who didn't leave, who's still playing at an extremely high level, who can still shoot it from the locker room, and they go win this, if they get on that roll and win this, he may not – you're not going to – people are still going to resist throwing him into the GOAT conversation. But I'll damn well tell you, he's closed the gap on – Jordan's still different for me. But now we're talking – you're throwing him into
Kobe's in mine too.
Bird, LeBron, Magic. You know what I'm saying? Now he's jumped into there because he didn't chase it. They chased him. And that's the –
Sean's putting him above.
What?
Sean's putting him above LeBron if he wins, though.
I think that if he does, I think that's a fair argument considering chase, bring guys with you. Steph said, I'm here. You guys want some? Clay and Draymond and
especially when KD hasn't won. KD hasn't won since, and Jimmy Butler's been on 4 teams and still chasing it. If he wins with that.
KD had Russ Westbrook and James Harden on the same team in Oklahoma City, and they didn't win that one either. So, we can poo-poo it away, but you're going to have to listen. He's in the team picture. I assure you that. I'm kind of anxious to see. But that Golden State thing, it's become one of the great stories. And I didn't have it on my bingo card. I could sure as hell tell you that. So, but the Lakers and their ability, and you know what's going to happen, JB. One injury or a hamstring to Steph or LeBron out or Luka out for a few weeks, changes the whole course. So you go from number 2 to number 5. Ask the Rockets. They went from number 2 to number 5 in a heartbeat. So this is going to be a conversation, obviously, we're going to continue to have, as well as a lot of March Madness talk as we roll.
Who's your NBA Coach of the Year right now? Are you putting JJ Redick in the conversation? Do you have your guy there in Houston, Udoka, or do you have our guy Bickerstaff's son up in Detroit and the job he's done? I mean, there's some guys out here that need to have some talk about. If you're going to talk about Coach of the Year.
Listen, I get good players make it easier on a coach, but you've given some that got to receive votes, JB. I don't think we give good coaches on good teams enough credit. You want to know why? It's because we all of a sudden say, if I had those players, I can roll a ball out there and win. But listen, there's no bigger egos in sports than NBA players. The whole thing you got to manage and, I need a night off or all that shit you got to go through. Much respect. But to me, it's not just having the players. It's how to make sure they all fit in and they do things. So, of course, you're going to get the guys you just mentioned. But in Cleveland and Oklahoma City, did you have Cleveland on your bingo card at 51 at this stage of the game? And I'm telling you, dominating, brother. So, yeah, that's where the coach of the year starts. But the guys you're talking about got to get some consideration. But we don't give Belichick Coach of the Year awards. We don't give them to Andy Reid because, well.
Andy Reid, I don't get that either. Sirianni, 2 years in a row.
Right.
Should have.
Right. We give it to the guy who's kind of got him to the playoffs when they shouldn't have. But what about the guys got to manage all the stuff and the expectations? So
show me. I wish they get it at the end of the year.
Let me get my guys at Premier Gold before we say goodbye and tease it, because we got so much going on. I love this shit, man. I'm so grateful that we're here on this platform to be uncensored, unfiltered, and to be raw, but also, again, authentic and transparent, which you're always going to get here. You don't have to worry about anybody telling us, say this, argue this, bullshit. We ain't doing that here. Not now, not ever. And I kind of like it that way. And I've also spent a career, maybe it wasn't Tom Brady, you think, Sean, but making quick decisions. It's a quarterback position, right? You got to make quick decisions under pressure. But off the field, you do too. You may not have as many quick decisions every 40 seconds to make, but you're getting hit in the mouth, but it's still there. But then the pressure, you're not getting hit by a 350-pound lineman. You may be getting hit by a $350,000 bill. So how are we going to preserve that? We're on the 5-yard line. When the clock hits 0, guys are hitting you on the field. Off the field, it's real life now. In retirement, it's savings, your savings, and everything you've worked for. Are you protecting it? What are you doing to protect it? So I keep asking myself, with everything going on in the market, good or bad, it changes, it fluctuates, especially in like when we had an election year. Is my retirement safe? Is yours safe? Is it enough? How do I protect what I've worked so hard to build? And I want to keep building it, protecting it. So back in the day, the biggest concern was, dodging tacklers and reading defenses and making the right decision. There's a lot more on the line now. One wrong play on the goal line with your finances can set you back years. It's happened to me. I know what rock bottom there looks like. Hell, I know big time. I understand that. And so do most of you. But now there's a lot more on the goal line, as I said. So hardworking Americans have put 401k money, IRA accounts, trusting they'd be set when the time came for retirement. And even if you're not close to retirement, you start building it and protecting it now. But over the years, the markets take a hit and another hit and another. And watch my retirement take a hit. I'm sure yours has too. So one bad day on Wall Street can ruin everything. Years of retirement, you're in a certain age where you don't want to go have to grind, and now it hits you. Well, how are you protecting that? And the older you get, the harder it is to bounce back, just kind of like when you have an injury. That's when I realized having a playbook matters, a playbook for life, a playbook for finances that's centered around financial security and building wealth and keeping it. Not just building it, keeping it and protecting it. I've teamed up with Premier Gold. You see it right there, the best. Premier Gold helped countless people like you and me protect what we've worked so hard for with physical. You can hold it in your hands, gold, right? Physical gold, real tangible assets that stand the test of time. Inflation, market swings, national debt, all eat away at your retirement, but not precious metals. Physical gold and silver can provide security and freedom, and it's only going to get better. Premier Gold makes it easy for retirees to own gold. Expert guidance they offer, a simple rollover process, and no hidden fees. So if you're close to retirement or just looking to protect what's yours or already there in retirement, you're going to need a plan. And that plan's that good playbook. Make sure you're protected. Just like in a game, timing's everything. This isn't a game, though. It's your future, your legacy, your family, your retirement, your life. So don't wait till it's too late. Go visit premiergoldco.com, premiergoldco.com, and they are our studio sponsor as well, the Premier Gold Studios. And as we build the new one, they'll be front and center right here with us. JB, as we wrap this up, my man, what's the biggest thing going on in sports in your mind right now? The biggest thing? I don't care what sport. What's the biggest thing going on? Biggest story that's on the field, on the court. Is it the golf LIV and PGA Tour coming together if they do? That negotiation. Is it the way the Lakers or Golden State are playing? Is it who the MVP is going to be in baseball this year? Is it can the Dodgers repeat? Is it, is the window closed for some friends? Is Kansas City Chiefs window closing? Is Kelsey still able to carry? What in your mind is like, that's the biggest thing we got going on in sports?
Man, Sean, I would have to say it was Matthew Stafford.
Is it women and men's sports? I mean, men and women's sports, which we've had that conversation. What is the
I think
biggest?
that's more of a societal issue that we need to hopefully nip in the bud. If we're talking just sports, and we want to hopefully avoid that because it's asinine to us. I would say it was Stafford re-signing, because before that, everybody was like, how is Stafford up for grabs even? That was crazy to think. He re-signs, Sean. Now we've seen, Max Crosby's big deal, T. Higgins. I think it's probably football, because football is king, especially cash cow king. I would think it's in the football world. Now that we transition to basketball, is it Luka being a Laker?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think right now, I don't think they're like the pressing, oh my gosh story. But for me, considering it's the Lakers, considering the franchise's history, considering LeBron James, who you'll lead your every show with LeBron James if you're on television, and adding Luka to it, and is he fat and out of shape? Can he sustain this? That's got to be his biggest story. And LeBron winning Player of the Month at his age and doing the things he's doing. To me, there's 3 or 4 stories inside the Lakers. And can Jeannie Buss go get a full season championship and do what her pops did, right? I think a lot of that fits into one.
Where would you rank Shedeur Sanders being drafted in that discussion?
Top 3. I think top 3 because of the lightning rod that his pops is, all the talk that's been surrounding him, the hype, the pub. There's a major gap between people who love him and people who don't. So,
there's a story out there, Sean. There's a story you might want to talk about tomorrow, maybe lead in with, I don't know, but there's a story out there that if the NFL were to snub Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders would bring Shedeur back to Colorado to play another year. He is eligible to do so.
What's
Just
the
throw
snub?
that in the bucket.
Top 10,
just throw that in there.
Where's the snub?
That's the question.
Where does the snub line come? Is it in sand or is it in stone?
Yeah, I wouldn't pick him in the top 10 or so. Not with the guys I know picking. I know Cleveland, who just restructured Deshaun Watson's contract this morning, helping them out again, restructured him again.
Oh yeah, that's the second time.
The Giants. I would think Brian Daboll has. This is it. If he don't get to the playoff, he's fired. So he's got to go get a veteran, in my opinion. Can't draft a quarterback. Tennessee, are they going to really take a shot at another quarterback?
Makes for great debate tomorrow. And the question is, where is the line of you snubbed him, and is he going to plummet on draft day? We'll discuss that among other quarterback topics and the rampant NFL stuff that's going on. And obviously, we'll bring it to you with passion, and always appreciate your guys' great comments and insight as well here. And this first week has been off the charts. We'll be back at it again at 2 o'clock Central tomorrow. JB, great stuff, man. Love the banter and the insight. And as always, we'll have laughs and talk shit about each other as we always do to each other. I love you, my man. Triple E, thank you. Laura Palmisano and Craig Larson, the best. And we'll be back at it tomorrow, guys. Share with your friends. Let them know where to come and get, quite frankly, as authentic as it gets without being told what we got to say. We get to say what you guys want to hear. And if you don't like it, at least we're honest with it. This is Unpaved. I am Sean Salisbury, JB, Coach JB, and Triple E. We'll be back at it tomorrow. We'll see you at 2 o'clock Central. Pop on there if you missed any part of this on our podcast, and you can go get it at Rumble and tell all your friends. We'd love to have you along. We'll see you guys tomorrow.